So here we have to find the center, the transverse axis, the vertices, the foci, and the asymptotes. And then we need to graph this thing. So here's the equation here. So the first thing I'm thinking of is trying to get it in a better form. And that simply means I'm going to take a 9 out here. That's going to give me x squared, and I'm going to put that 18 over here with this, which means if I pull a 9 out, I'm going to get 2x. Then I'm going to do the same thing for the y, but I'm going to pull a negative out, so that's going to be y squared. And then when I put this negative 8y by it, that's going to make that a plus 8y. And then this 88, I'm just going to move to the other side, okay, by adding it to both sides. So there we go. So that's our first step. Now what we're going to do is we're going to use the idea of completing the square. So I'm going to take half of b, and now I'm talking about the one inside the parentheses. I'm going to take half of that, and then I'm going to square it, and that's going to be a 1. So for that first one, I'm going to add a 1. And then for this one here, I'm going to take half of b, and this is my b here now, squared, and that's going to be 16. Now keep in mind here that I still have this multiplier of 9 out front, which means when I put a 1 in here, I'm going to have to times it by 9. So I'm really adding 9 for this one here. And then for the second one, I have a 16 that I'm adding in here. But when I times it by a negative, I'm actually subtracting 16. So a positive 9 and a negative 16 means I'm actually subtracting 7 from both sides. So that's going to result in, so we get this here. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to factor this out the top. And I'm going to get, and there's my answer. And then I'm going to divide by 81, all three of these. And then here, the 9 and the 81 are going to cancel. That's going to be 1, and it's going to be 9 down there. 81 over 81 is 1, and so this is what we get. Now from here, I get some information. So right away, I get my center, okay, and that's going to be from here. What makes that 0? Positive 1 for my x. What makes this 0? Negative 4 for my y. So it's going to be 1, negative 4 is going to be my center. Now I also know that my x squared is positive here, which tells me that it's going to open up on the left and open up on the right, which tells me my transverse axis is going to run through the center at negative 4. So that's going to be y equals negative 4. So now for the vertices, remember it goes by the positive component for these. And that's not really a 9 I'm looking at. It's really a 3 squared. So my a is actually 3 here. So that tells me then my vertices are going to be 3 away from the center. So I'm just going to graph those points so you can actually see where they're all at. So if I look at this on a graph, I can see here that the distance from the center over to the vertex is 3, because remember that 9 is 3 squared. So that distance of 3 is over this way, and that's going to be where my vertices is at, or my vertex is. And then I have symmetry, so I have one on the other side of that that's 3 away. So 1, 2, 3, so it puts it here. So there's my other vertex, and that's going to be my V2. So there's my vertices, and I can also draw the transverse axis in this too. So I'm going to do that now. Okay, now let's find the foci. So the foci are going to come from that equation. Remember that equation, b squared equals c squared minus a squared? And you remember a squared was the number under the positive component, and b squared was under the negative component? So again, we're just going to use this handy-dandy formula to kind of figure that out, what c would be. So then that would be, so keep in mind here, this is really a squared, and that's really b squared. So I'm just going to write in there 81 equals c squared minus 9. And when I move that 9 over, this is going to be 90 equals c squared. So then my c is actually going to be square root of 90, which is really 3 square root of 10. So now I have my c, which is telling me that that's my distance from the center. So if I start here, I'm going to go to the right 3 square root of 10, and then to the left square root of 3 over 10. So I'm going to put those in now. Before I do, understand that 3 square root of 10 is approximately 9.486 blah blah blah. So right around 9.5 away from the center. So I'm going to put those values in. Okay, so now from here I put those in, and you notice I use the values. So when I write those foci at the bottom, I don't want to use the decimal approximations. I want to use the radicals. So there they are. And you notice I put the 1 minus 3 square root 10 and then the 1 plus 3 square root 10. So I got to make sure I use the exact values for those. Now I just have to find one more thing, the asymptotes, and then finish up our graph. So recall that if we're looking for the asymptotes, it's b over ax, and that b being the value under the y and the a being the value under the x. So we're just going to use this idea. Now keep in mind here, we did have a shift, didn't we? Our center is different now. Our center is actually 1, 4. So we're going to see the same sort of relationship here. So instead of this y, we really have y plus 4. And that's going to equal that b over a. So my b is going to actually be 9 because it's, remember, 9 squared there. Okay, and then this 9 is actually going to be a 3. And then this is not just going to be an x anymore, but it's going to be an x minus 1. Now you notice these kind of look exactly the same as these here. And they should, because that's being shifted over too. Normally it would have been y equals b over ax. But now since we're shifting it over, it's going to move the same as the others. Okay, as the center, excuse me. So now what we're going to do is that's going to be our one of our new lines. And I can simplify this a little. And then I can do the same for the other. So this is going to be really y plus 4 equals 3x minus 1. And the other equation then is going to be a y plus 4 equals negative 3x minus 1. So I just wrote them down at the bottom there for my asymptotes. Now realize that my slope is a positive 3 for the first one here. So that means from the center I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, and then over to the right one. So my point is actually going to be here. And I'm going to continue this process and actually just graph the two lines. So as you can see, one of the lines is going to be similar to this, and then the other one's going to flip around the other side. So I'm going to go and graph those now. So there are the equations. And that's going to be the y plus 4 equals positive 3 x minus 1. And over here is going to be the y plus 4 equals negative 3 x minus 1. So there's the two equations there for the asymptotes. Now I'm going to finish graphing this. So there's our completed graph, and there's all the information that we're looking for here down below. And then the graph to the right. So there we go, we're all set.